Hi everyone, I wanted to do today a little just predictions of, going into July, really from now, mid-June, July and August, and we might at the end will focus a little bit on a message financial economy. I'm not going into detail in this one, I might do in another one, but I don't want to repeat anything that I've already said. And so I have my furry friend here because fireworks were going off and he is a bit frightened, if you can see him behind me. And I don't know why they were going off. Well, I do. My mum told me. It's a bit crazy. If anyone has a reason why fireworks on occasions go off in their town or city in England, let me know in the comments. Let's see if it's the same thing. I was a bit shocked, but okay. So the UK June, I do see there's going to be changes and announcements that will include and come from the royal family or the government. Okay, so there's going to be some changes, and following that there's going to be announcements, and I am going to do a reading on the royal family separately. I will check my last one out because it's still very valid. And I would check my global psychic predictions that I've done as well. So there is announcements that there's changes to the government, to the royal family. There's announcements. Now it could be both at the same time or they're separated, but I do see that happening. And I do see trouble for Keir Starmer scandals again. I mentioned this prior, and I've also mentioned about pushing the digital wallets and kind of IDs and stuff, and he was doing that prior to him. As he was just elected, I said what his focus would be, and it's come through. So I do see that, and I do see that there's going to be also possibly, like I said, announcement on the royal family or King Charles. So we'll watch out for that. The US, and I think it will kick off globally in certain countries. We're going to see from June, end of June onwards, I think we're going to start seeing, it takes a little bit to get in motion basically, but women's rights coming up again. And I think in the US it could be around new legislation. Could it be around the abortion? That was something that was up, wasn't it? A big concern when Trump was coming in to be elected. So I see women's rights and children, but really about women, and also then secondary children. And some places will introduce like a legislation or be a big debate around it. Let's say if it is about the abortion and the women's rights, US, but some places will have like a protest that is to do with women and their rights or something along those lines. I also see like a leader or a politician, and she's in a high role, but she doesn't always speak. Okay, she could be in the administration or part of the government, and she doesn't always speak, but it seems like she's vocal, and it brings forward the energy of a woman coming forward. So I do see that, and that is going to be a theme for the next, I'd say 6 to 8 weeks. I think it's going to be. So US, let's see if that comes in. I did mention in June there'd be triggered ego clashes, government leaders, and we have seen that in June. We did see around the 6th, 7th onwards, and I think that will be continuing, that will increase. I do want to say is just be careful on what you buy into, because for example, the Iran-US situation, why I said US I'm not really sure, but US is kind of on hold. Is Trump going to do something? What's happening? It's interesting how every country is reporting back to Trump as if he's like this peace treaty governor, controller. Has anyone realized that? But for example, you know, this whole thing is a lot of misconstrued strategy that was already put in place. I already predicted last year for this year, Iran is going to be in trouble, and they're going to try and go and disarm Iran like they did to Iraq and other countries, and Iran will never be the same. A shift in the political leadership, and it's all going to be that, you know, they wanted to assassinate DT. The people are tied by religion, they can't live, so they want this. There's that is something, but it also is something to go into a country and try and take over, and disarm them, and you know, disempower them as a country, and take over them basically in a non-overt way. So we have to be careful on, again, religious sentiment messaging, false messaging and narratives. And you know, there's people that will be Iranian that will actually buy into this and say, yeah, you know, we need freedom, etc. But I need to be careful, because your country will never be the same again, and the leadership will be toppled, they will be disarmed. I see around mid-July, 10th, 13th July, mid-July, global tension increasing, the war kind of conflicts, tension increasing. And this also, not only am I talking about Iran and Israel, I'm talking also about Taiwan and China. I'm talking about Pak and India might come up again. And also southern China. So I don't know if that is the Taiwan and China one that I'm seeing. There's going to be false flags of countries going to war. But I would say it's definitely red alert for the Middle East with Iran there. Taiwan, South China. I did do a reading in 2024, I think it was December or November, and I said about NATO in the future. And I said about Turkey, and if you followed that reading, if not, check it out in the Global Psychic Prediction folder. You're seeing it unfold. Like, there's going to be issues with NATO, and I said about Turkey as well. But, you know, I mentioned about Iran, I mentioned about Russia and Ukraine and Turkey. But there is the energy that I mentioned, which was the manipulation. But there is this energy of manipulation from within the NATO countries or NATO outside, or there's a confrontation between the NATO countries themselves, or there's kind of like a message to go direct on Iran. Something is happening there, but there is also manipulation. I do see this period also being quite calm for leaders and government leaders and countries where there's obviously the government and frameworks. So there's going to be exposures and truths coming out, because there is things that are being hidden by secret society, DS, government leaders. What is the, you know, the you know, like CIA, M16, Mossad, those things. But they're a bit more covert because they're very well protected. But I would say about, there is truths coming, because there's karmic tide there. There's the energy there that I see. There is going to be economic delays, and there's also manipulation of the economy, and there's manipulation of data, there's manipulation of what we're being told. I see that very clearly. There's going to be this war around AI as well, and there's going to be some digital deception that's put in front of us with the data manipulation and lies as well. So those be three key themes I see. I think we need to be very discerning and know that this could be going on. I did mention that June time financial market will give false hopes on growth. And when there's a shake-up, because the US dollar really governs the exchange rates, the market, when there's a shake-up and there's a volatility of what they're seeing around the US dollars, the millionaires, the billionaires don't invest, which hits the economy. Along with other stuff, of course, but I'd say avoid making high investments. I'm talking about high investments. So if you're pretty well off, mid-July to sort of 7th or mid-August, I'd say around the 7th of August, I think those 3 weeks are very volatile. And like I say, very important to know that any secret agents, securities, governments, truths are coming out, and this will be it from now until August as well. Obviously I'll tap in if there's later. There is going to be this energy where in July as well, natural disasters, I mentioned it before, and water related. So earthquakes is going to be triggered by the energy of water upset or a rumble in the water, which there's also the flooding, the tsunamis, the cyclones that I've seen. And I still go to that there could be a waterborne disease that comes out. Now, I also mentioned about health and other diseases, and I did mention, because I don't want to rehash and repeat, I'd say go back to the global psychic predictions and just listen to them, listen to the latest ones, because they're not monthly only, and there's one for the 2025 themes as well. And I think in some countries, see if we believe in it or not, but they're saying, you know, the sea is back in some countries. I think it's starting to be mentioned in the UK again. So here we go again, for whatever they say this sea is. But there is a turmoil. And I do want to say financially, the highest positioning for financial turmoil this year is between July and October. And if this is wrong, that is going to be great, because I feel that that's the highest volatility for a crisis. And that's why I say turmoil, because I don't like crisis. We've got too much going on. Even without that, the employment market, finding a job, trying to feel stable is just awful. It has been for the past, I'd say it's easily been for the past 2-3 years. But also I think there's something there with obviously timing of your destiny. But there could be financial turmoil, and I do think it's going to be Western world. So the UK also included the US, Asian Pacific, and some Asian countries as well. Need to watch out for this period, and oil prices disruptions will be happening. With that obviously means the market, the employment market could be a bit more trickier. But when it's your time to find a job, you're going to find a job. Remember that. I think I've mentioned this before, the way we do finances, the whole financial structure and frameworks and banking and etc. is changing. It is going to take a reshape. And I will do a July theme prediction as well, but I'm just giving you some what's going to be bubbling as well. But banks, if this happens, banks will introduce policies and measurements to try and balance and do a recovery as much as possible. It's really not good to see one decision of one person in the world can shift the economy with a rumble across, if not the world, multiple countries, at least half the world. That to me is concerning. I don't know if anyone else realizes what I'm trying to say. It is concerning. But there is a recovery. There will be financial growth. And this is all part of the financial system changing and structure changing and what we know it. But definitely by June 2026, I didn't want to say this date because it just seems so far off, there is definitely a better world of economy than what we have right now and what could be coming up. There is going to be a lot of anxiety, uncertainty, and stress. God help us, because if you're already stressed and anxious, this could sound difficult. And I did mention this year there could be a lot of mental health that comes up. Find ways to connect to nature. I think people are going to try to connect to each other a lot more than, you know, post-COVID. A lot of us was like, can't be bothered stuff, but I think people are starting to find that they find meeting people again a breath of fresh air, and it doesn't have to be so far out, but just having a conversation as opposed to technology being in the middle of you. And that's even if you see our Pat at, I don't know, Asda's or whatever, you take 5 minutes to speak to Pat about XYZ, and it just kind of like feels refreshing. So connect to what grounds you. If you have a faith, connect to a faith to help you, whatever works for you. And stay blessed, stay connected, follow, like, subscribe. Let's share the energy for people to be aware of stuff, but again, not fear mongering. So what I did is I decided to pull cards before I got on the camera just to see what we get. And for the challenge of July, we get the Tower. So a real shake-up is going to be happening on something. This could be the economy, it could be other stuff. For August, it's a lack of stability, a financial long-term vision for finances, for stability. So that could be the Tower. Now, the blessing is that we find balance, we find a way to moderate where we give our energy, where we take our energy, who we share that with, what we listen to, what we don't listen to. There is the blessing is there is ways for you to connect, to disconnect from what makes you feel like there's a massive shake-up and the world is on edge. So I'm not surprised the Tower came out. So that's for July. Now the blessing in August, they're very similar, like they seem to bounce off each other. The August blessing is we have the strength to pull through this, and if that means finding strength from one another, here I feel it's something about pets as well. Like some of you might feel like your pet just seems to give you, it could be your children as well, you know, a smile in the midst of your stressful day. But it seems like we have the strength to pull through this. I also think it's saying that the majority of the world, depends where you are, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, that the weather, so if it's a summer, it's actually making people feel a lot better. It's August time, so this is that. And I also feel there's something about looking about the abundance of nature that's around you, so the weather around us. The advice is really to tap into any emotions that come to you. Watch about overgiving because you need your energy, but be kind, share kindness. Again, we talked about karma, so being kind, protecting yourself, protecting your energy, tapping into your emotions, listening to your emotions, protecting yourself. Not overgiving, but also not being a minimalistic and not being kind or sharing love and emotion. So don't avoid your emotions. And interestingly, with both of them, this card was the second card that wanted to come out for July and August. So, you know, it's talking about communication. Fast communication is going to be around, happening, but also this is about us communicating, not holding back. Okay, it's come up for both months. here in August, our advice is, like we had the Queen of Cups in July, our advice for August is actually to balance, again, very similar actually, balance the energy. Watch your money as well. Don't be over giving, and don't be, if you do have money to give, help the people that need it, because it will return to you. It might not, you think you're giving but it's not returning, it does return to you. So there's a cycle that happens here. There is a stability, there is going to be glimmers of hope, of stability. This is about sharing, where, you know, God's given you a little bit more this month, or, you know, has blessed you with abundance in whatever way it is. What can you give to, you know, people that you might see in pain or need help? Or, and this could be energy, it could be finances, could be anything. And then watch your finances. You know, are you balancing what you're doing? Are you being an avoidant, and so you're splashing out on, I'm not talking about Temu or Amazon, I'm talking about large stuff that you don't need. If you're feeling in balance, it's saying there is a balance coming in. Hold on with strength. Now, I asked through the True Crime deck that I've got, what could be major news, what could be major hits, media, etc. It seems like July is going to be focused on either trial updates, crime cases. We see that word there, so there could be something, a big crime case that, you know, is prepping to come forward, or even happens. Watch out for crime basically during this time, whether it's cases that are, you know, have happened, are coming to trial, are being discussed, or something that happens that is horrific that's going to hit the news. I feel August tells us, you know, as we're heading into August, we're talking about waters here. We're talking about, you know, again, bringing peace to yourself, all right? Moving away from any chaos when you can. Bring peace to yourself. Maybe you find peace near water, but I feel like this is telling us about the water, the weather that I was saying. So it could be, you know, July heading into August, we see this as the weather, all right? So I'm keeping this one short and sweet. I hope you do tune in to watch it. If you did, give it a like and subscribe. And as always, stay blessed and look out for the next reading. Thank you and bye for now.